Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
For the very best in talk paranormal radio on UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, conspiracy, and more, listen to Night Dreams with Gary, Monday to Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Pacific Time.
Well, here I am tonight. It's Friday already. Boy, this week is just zooming by. I find the older you get, the faster it goes. So what can I say? Am I in a time warp? It kind of feels that way sometimes. I'll tell you, I get up in the morning, next thing I know, it's 1 o'clock in the morning again. Well, hey, tonight my co-host is Michael W. Hall, well known as the Paranormal Lawyer. And then we have Brent Raynes, I hope I said it right, who writes books about UFOs and, well, the paranormal. You guys there?
Hey, I'm here,
Brent.
Gary.
Okay, well, you both are there. Both at the same time. You're doing good.
As long as we don't completely walk over each other all night.
Yeah, that kind of happens sometimes. Brent, why don't you tell the listeners what you do for a living?
Well, before I retired, I worked in corrections here in Tennessee for 28 and a half years in warehouse and commissary. And but now I'm retired. Been retired about 4 years now. And so, you know, between being with the grandkids and my wife and everyone, I just mostly hang around the house and read books and, you know, do research when I have time. And I'm currently working on a book on the well-known UFO researcher John Keel, who wrote the Operation Trojan Horse, Strange Creatures in Time and Space, and of course the Mothman Prophecies, which later became a movie by the same name with Richard Gere, which most everyone I think is familiar with. And before that, I wrote two other books, Visitors from Hidden Realms, back in 2004, and then On the Edge of Reality in 2009. Trying to keep all those dates straight in my head there. And then I've been doing the magazine that I do now. It's monthly, Alternate Perceptions, which covers the whole broad spectrum of paranormal. And it comes out monthly where we cover, you know, have interviews and book reviews and different features that people submit, and have my regular column called Reality Checking. And I just explore all kinds of different aspects. And anyway, I started this in 1985 as a 4-page newsletter, and gradually it got a little bigger and bigger. And in 1993, a friend, Dr. Greg Little, a psychologist over in Memphis, Tennessee, he came on board, and we've been working on it together. We did have a really slick little magazine, about 56 pages there for a while, and a color cover, and we had distributors from coast to coast and up into Canada. But of course, the publishing world has changed, and it became apparent about 2000 that the way to go was on the internet. So that's where our magazine is now.
Well, you know, I find virtually everything, you know, the internet has changed everything. You know, I've been in broadcasting since the mid-'70s, but for a while I got out of it for about 15 years and ran, 3 camera stores, professional camera stores. And I saw the handwriting about 1999. I went up to the owners of the business. I said, look, you know, give it about another 5-6 years and you're not going to be surviving anymore. They didn't believe me. And I told them that, you know, the internet is going to destroy the mom and pop, or not even just the mom and pop. The average business will be destroyed because people will buy it on the internet just to save a couple dollars. I mean, they'll forego the service and, you know, the all the wisdom of picking the right piece of equipment. to save money. And guess what? 5 years later, they closed up, and that store was around since the 30s.
Yeah, you were right. A lot of things have changed. Sure have.
Oh, yeah. The same like newspapers. I mean, newspapers in the last 10 years pretty much, have dried up and gone bankrupt. Some of them are surviving by, publishing on the internet. But everything has changed. You know how you get your news? You get it almost instantly now versus have to, wait till the newspaper comes. And even off the radio is not as fast as what you find on clicking on the internet. So, I mean, I can see what you've done, gone from a few page thing to horrendous amount of, pages because, I mean, the people are there and they're starving for the information right now more than ever on the paranormal.
Yeah, it's something that I remember when I started working my job at the prison, which was a state job, and I tried to keep a low profile, on my interest. And now with all the things that people are reading, before I left for several years, people were coming to me with stories, asking me what was new, and the prison paper even wanted me to come up with a monthly feature on the paranormal. So it was,
well,
it was really a big change.
Now, since you worked in prisons, I got to ask you this question. I've had some, ghost hunter groups on here. One of them I really, really think highly of. It's called Southern Paranormal. They seem to be really legit. But have you ever heard any real strange things in the prison when you worked there when no one was around, or things that it went bump in the night and you couldn't account for where it came from?
Well, ours was a fairly new prison, but there had been, a few deaths in the time that it's been open. But there was a few people that felt they had seen an unusual shadow in a corner or something. But nothing major at ours. But I know the walls up in Nashville, a large old prison that started in the late 1800s, they've had different paranormal groups that would go in there and do investigations and sometimes make video programs there too.
Yeah, I would think prisons and mental institutions and, old hospitals of a sort would be really rich if there is anything, in the paranormal of, voices, movement, ghosts, entities, anything like that. Especially I even think more than prisons would be the old mental institutions, because basically if somebody got committed in a mental institution, they were tortured to the day they got out or until they died, and most of them didn't get out unless they were dead.
Well, I know, I never have been in a mental institution, but I know that the over in Fayetteville, which is east of where I am here, and it's this town here had a 3-story hospital that closed, pretty large hospital back in around the time of 9/11. And there have been different paranormal groups going in there, and we were, I believe, myself and some friends, we were some of the first, and we made about at least 3 trips over there to go into the hospital, and we picked up quite a number of EVPs, and at times hearing voices, in the air that we couldn't track down who it was, where it came from, and because we were supposedly alone in the building, and just very anomalous things, quite a bit that was going on, and also rapping sounds.
How did you feel when you got that? I mean, were you nervous at all that the first time you heard it, actually physically heard it? Or you were to the point that, you expected it? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I ran into something I couldn't account for myself in the building that I was at as a general manager at that one camera shop in Tacoma. It was going back to the 1870s, and they had like a speakeasy at one point, a bar downstairs before that, and it was a brothel upstairs. Mm-hmm. And, it was a lot of strange. All my employees would come up to me, for all the years I was there coming up to me and saying, hey, this place is haunted. You know, for a while I started thinking, when I first started working there as a general manager, I started thinking, boy, the prior general manager really hired a bunch of nutcases. But it kept on going on with every time I hired a new employee, you know, they would go in the basement, they would come up and they'd say, hey, something moved on its own, or they, you know, heard something, or the lights would flicker at the wrong time, you know, and you heard it for many years in, like, from a former Navy SEAL, a Rangers that worked for us, you know, all that stuff. Then when it happened to me, I kind of like opened my eyes up, like, wow, I mean, this stuff is real.
No, really, I didn't have any really bad experiences, or maybe because, you know, we're kind of prepared for it, and I know that we were going through, you know, some of the people who had worked in that hospital years earlier, and I know there was a nurse that we were, one of the first times we went through there, we're up, I think, on the second floor, and it was all dark, and we had flashlights and recorders and everything, and somebody had heard something, and this nurse just grabbed my hand and didn't let go for a while, you know, because she was very scared. And I remember another time we were there, and there were a couple of women with this nurse, and they had a K2, and it was, you know, it was going off, and they said, it seems to be coming from you, referring to this nurse that grabbed my hand the last time, and she was about to jump out of her skin, and I was able to check, and there was some overhead lights, and this was actually where this was coming from, some of the wiring overhead. And I, you know, tried to reassure her that, you know, this is not anything that's you know, taking possession of you or anything like that. We have an explanation to this. But yeah, sometimes I remember Brad Steiger telling me years ago, whenever you're going to investigate a haunted site, you need to get control of your emotions, you know, and not let that old atavistic fear take over.
Yeah, or you got the opposite too. You have some ghost hunter groups that actually, how can I say it? It's more of a social gathering than really trying to, you know, get down to, you know, the nitty gritty of trying to find if the place is, you know, being haunted, or there are spirits, ghosts in the building or wherever they're at. I find that so surprising, you know, like they'll go into a place for an hour or two and then they leave and they say, oh, there's nothing there. I just don't think you could go out and do an old warehouse or mental institution or an old prison and only spend an hour or two and expect to get anything.
Well, yeah, you've got to, you know, sometimes you do, but I mean, you've got to be prepared to spend a little time and review your evidence, you know, do the recordings and take pictures and review all that evidence carefully afterwards. And sometimes you're on investigation and you think, man, you know, there's nothing much happening, but then you go to review, say, the audio, and suddenly, you know, you're talking to someone and another voice interrupts that conversation and says, whoa, where did that voice come from, you know? And you realize, oh, we've got an anomaly here.
Yeah,
that's potential anomaly anyway.
That's the scary part. I don't understand when people, and